Julian Sayin, Jeremiah Smith, and the top-ranked national champion defending Ohio State Buckeyes face Fernando Mendoza, Elijah Sarratt, and the number 2 ranked Indiana Hoosiers in the Big Ten championship game. This is the biggest Big Ten title game in history. Frankly, it's not even that close. Because of the divisions in the past, we didn't really get all that many Big Ten title games. In this one, the #1 seed in the college football playoffs on the line, the Heisman Trophy on the line here with which quarterback can outduel the other one. And we're going to get the opportunity to do that because both of these teams, you'd imagine, will have a style that airs the football out and tries to attack. Why? Because these defenses have just been too good in the run game. They've been too good defending the run. It's going to come down to who can convert on third downs. Which quarterback in the red zone can make the plays necessary to score touchdowns and not be kicking field goals. Now, the #1 seed on the line here. That was an interesting storyline last year because Oregon, they beat Penn State, got the #1 seed, but I truly believe this year is a heck of a lot different. There's not a looming supernova of a program out there like Ohio State was last year. I think that the SEC this season has been a bit leveled off, that the Big Ten clearly has a bit more elite talent and the SEC is deeper. But with all those teams, it does look a heck of a lot more favorable, definitely, to get that first round bye, get that 1 seed, and you'd be playing that 8 or the 9 spot in the Rose Bowl there in Pasadena on New Year's Day. 4 starters in this matchup, and the way that we will break it down, I truly believe that you have to start with the wide receivers because this is some of the best wide receiver play of any college football game that you will ever see, especially in the modern era. You'd have to go back a bit of a ways probably to looking at Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase as a duo, and I think there is a comparison that is somewhat worthy looking at Tate and Smith. To even mention those guys in the same breath is remarkable. Of course, those 2 players and what they did for LSU a few seasons ago, that was unbelievable. But right now, Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, you can see that there is top 10 pick potential for both of them. Smith might be the #1 guy taken in the 2027 NFL draft. Speaking on that note, continuing with wide receivers and talented players, there might be a total of 4 players overall that will be top 5 picks. Fernando Mendoza could be the first player taken. His wide receiver duo of Omar, Cooper Jr., and Sarratt. And then the guy that's just developed, he's come along so nicely. Charlie Becker has been a huge pivotal piece here. Whenever there was an opportunity to get him the football against Penn State when there was no Sarratt, I think that's a bit of an overlooked piece of that game, not having Sarratt on the field. He's got 11 touchdowns. Omar Cooper's got 11 touchdowns, and Charlie Becker stepped up to the plate. He could be the first player taken in the upcoming draft. Arvell Reese for Ohio State, their linebacker. He could be the first defensive player taken in the upcoming draft. Of course, there's Julian Sayin and Smith coming out in 2027. Don't worry, we'll go into the likes of guys like Styles and Michael Kamara, Caleb Downs. There's so many incredible players to talk about in this game, but keeping it on the offensive side of the football, truly here, you're going to look at the one-on-one matchups. The Buckeyes and what they do as a defense, it's 4-man pressure for the most part. If they can get pressure with 4 guys, which they can with how talented they are at edge and end with Curry and Kenyatta Jackson, and then in the middle there with Houston, Caden McDonald, they feel confident that if they rush 4, that with their athletic linebackers, Styles and Reese, that they can hold up and their defenders are just going to get there. That the quarterback will not have more than 3 seconds to deliver the football. And Mendoza, he's been protected by a very good offensive line this season, and those 50-50 balls have not been 50-50 balls. The placement has been incredible. There's been few quarterbacks. The only one you could compare Mendoza to on the season is going to be on the other sideline, going against him in this game, leading the country, leading all history in completion percentage for a college football regular season from a quarterback. Now, Cooper Jr., this is a guy that had the best catch in all of college football this year against Penn State. And that's where we'll pivot here in a sense. Because when you're looking at this game, it's hard to find the similarity in the schedule, and you go into the weeds here. How do we try and find an advantage? Which team has played better? There's really only one game on the full schedule that points to maybe there's an advantage for somebody, in the sense that Ohio State, they whooped Penn State. The second half, that wasn't a game. Now, the trajectory looked like that for Indiana. It seemed that they were going to coast to that win against them, and then it tightened up. Penn State started to run the football, and Grunkemeyer made some big throws, and then ultimately Mendoza was forced to drive the length of the field, and he did exactly that. Now, I mentioned earlier, Sarratt was not on the field for the Buckeyes against Penn State. They had that game at home. There's a couple of different factors there when you look at that one. So you really don't have much to go on except for that specific matchup comparing these two teams. Indiana with a tight game against Iowa, and the Buckeyes with a close game against Texas. That game very early in the season, a far different game plan and what they've looked like as an offense compared to what they are now. And then besides that, you look at the both of these teams and how they played Wisconsin, Purdue, Illinois. I mean, it's just been very impressive football all around. Both of them 12-0, undefeated going into this one. I can't believe that we get this one in Indiana. How excited do you think this fan base is? Getting this game, quote unquote, at home, Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. Not that Ohio and their fans aren't too far away to get to this game and be full throat for this one in support of their team. But you would imagine that there could be a 65-35, something like that, advantage for Indiana. This is the biggest game in their program's history. I think bigger than even the college football playoff a season ago in their matchup against Notre Dame, because last year at Ohio State, they had a chance to prove themselves, could not get it done. And then they had an opportunity, Notre Dame couldn't get it done. The only two losses this team has had in the last 2 years were to the two teams that played for a national championship. There is nothing wrong with that. Now, here is one of their opportunities. It's a game where the game won't be won, lost in the first quarter, second quarter. This will be a 4-quarter game, and I think the opportunity for Indiana will exist, because this isn't a team that will immediately just pounce on you. It's an onslaught of points from the beginning. Ohio State plays the long game. They feel that over the sense of 4 quarters, they will wear you down, that they out-roster you, they out-talent you, and they will out-physical you. And with efficient play, this is the most efficient offense and defense in the country statistically, in terms of stop rate, as well as touchdown and point scored percentage on the drives and the number of plays that they do run. So what does that mean for Indiana? That more likely than not, you're looking at 7 or 8 possessions in this game, not 10 or 11 that you'd be looking at typically. You're looking at probably 2 or 3 less possessions than you're typically used to because of the slower pace of play for the Buckeyes. The question remains, is there a possibility that Ohio State has been saving a style of play that is quicker for a game like this, that Ryan Day and Hartline are going to come out moving the football with urgency quicker in the game and going a little bit more huddle up tempo? There hasn't been an instance throughout the season that points to that, but I really would be aware. You look back at how the Buckeyes came out against Tennessee and Oregon with a quicker tempo and going right out, attacking to start. In the college football playoff last year, each of the 4 games in the CFP, the first possession, they scored a touchdown right off the bat, and they got off to great starts, and that's something that Indiana will have to sort of flip the script here. They're going to have to try and get off to a great start, and that's limiting the Buckeyes in an opening possession to a field goal that looks like you putting up a field goal in that first possession and just staying with there and settling into the football game, applying a little bit of pressure. Against Michigan on the road, Ohio State, as bad of a start as you could possibly manage. The chunk play, first play of the game for Michigan, but they held them a 3. The interception, first pass attempt of the game from Sayin is deep down the field to Tate, falls incomplete. They take the shot, and then Smith, it's intercepted. They hold them to 3. And the Buckeyes are only down by 6 points, and there's still 10 minutes to go in that first quarter. So as bad as it can start, and they still were only down by 6 points. Now for Indiana, yeah, it would have to take advantage. If there is a turnover, it's capitalizing and scoring 7. It is continuously making the most of your opportunities. You can't be settling for 3 if you hope to beat the Buckeyes. This is a team that has not given up more than 16 points on the season. That hasn't been done by a team through the first 12 games through an entire regular season since I believe like 1975 Florida State. Like hasn't been done in 50 years where a team has done. There's been a few teams that have allowed less points per game. Now the caveat is I believe that Ohio State's starting defense has given up it's either 5 or 6 touchdowns on the season that their starting unit has given up. They've given up like 10, 11 touchdowns on the year. But remember, half of those were given up by their benches, the backup in the last 5 minutes of the third quarter, fourth quarter, when you're taking the bulk of your players out of the game. Now, Indiana, how does that fast start look like? Well, again, we talked about that pass game, but this team is physical. They want to run the football well. This might as well be an Ohio State versus Michigan matchup where you sort of feel a sense of confidence for the team that runs the football better. Who better to do that than the Indiana Hoosiers that have run the football as well, if not better, than any other team in the country this season? That's what's allowed Fernando Mendoza to be incredibly confident and efficient. It hasn't been on him. It's been second and short. This team with play action has an ability to really challenge the line of scrimmage, the edge players, the linebackers having to stay home, and that allows Indiana to play fast and opens up those passing lanes in the middle of the field where he is, Mendoza is as deadly as anybody. And then there's the element of his legs. You factor in this running attack and how balanced that they are with Black and Hemby, and then Mendoza's legs at any time for Fernando to take off and run and be a factor. Specifically, more of that on third down where he wants to use it. He's something of not quite a Josh Allen, but sure, we'll use that as an example. A guy that can challenge you at any point to go and get that first down. He doesn't have that type of athleticism. We're not comparing him to Josh Allen, but he does definitely have an ability to go get those 3-4 off-script type first downs every single game that offensive coordinators love. I talk about it in just about all my videos. That's the expectation if you're going to be able to come up with a big win. In Indiana, well, all they've done the last 2 seasons is win games and stay on schedule. We're talking about 355 yards on the ground this past week against Purdue. I call that an exclamation point on a regular season if there ever was one. But then again, you're going against Ohio State. Well, they just had exactly that. They hadn't beat Michigan in 6 years. Well, what do? They pound the football down their throat. They dominate the line of scrimmage, time of possession, double them up in time of possession, more than double them up in total yards in this game. They had 186 rush yards to Michigan's 100. This was an emphatic game. This was a team that was far better going on the road and in a tough environment, even with the weather concerns. Julian Sayin, after he threw that interception, well, he wound up going 19 of 24 for 3 touchdowns and 233 yards, and that was with the Buckeyes really just going, chew the clock, and let's get out of here with the win and just move the clock down to zeros and work your way out of here with that W. So the matchups on the outside, I'm fascinated by the matchup of Omar Cooper Jr. versus Matthews or Igbinosun. These are some very physical wide receivers. And you take a look at the makeup of Cooper Jr., Sarratt, and they're thick, they're strong guys, physical at the point of attack, the catch point. They're not quite those flanker burner guys, and I'd argue it's a very similar type of wide receiver group to what Ohio State has. None of these teams are really throwing out guys that are your Zachariah Branches, your Isaiah Satanias, that are just your straight burners, right? Guys that you get the football to them in space, then there's threat to get off and go. No, you're utilizing wide receivers that are far more precise with their routes, that you have connection with, chemistry towards the sideline. You believe that you have an advantage anytime that you throw them a ball when it's single coverage. So single coverage, Jermaine Matthews, a player that you now look at having the experience of this whole season, getting experience playing last year. And then on the other side, Davis Igbinosun, he's raised his draft stock to probably be for sure a day 2 pick. We might have been talking about him being an earlier part of that second round in the NFL draft. Him versus Elijah Sarratt. I love that matchup because both of these guys are long, 6'2", around 200 pounds. They attack the football. They're going to be going at it. This is one of the more fun matchups of the year. It's just great, high-quality football. And then Mendoza and how he will be challenged. That's really up to the interior of that offensive line for Indiana and how they've shored up. Right, Drew Evans, Pat Coogan, Bray Lynch, these guys for Indiana up front there in the interior coming into the season, they were a bit of a strength for this team last year, and you have to be strong in the interior because pressure up the middle, that's a recipe for disaster. It doesn't matter who you play. You take a look at the Buckeyes and their struggles the last 4 years, that was a lot to do with it because they couldn't run the football and get those yards through the tackles, and they could do that last week against Michigan. They've had a struggle to do that throughout this season, but frankly, they're coming off a game where I think that their confidence in the ability to run the football is at an all-time type level, being able to just fully control that entire second half with the run game. And then Indiana, this is a team that's looking to prove everything. Buckeyes don't really have anything to prove with this game. They knew who they are. They just came up with a win that proved that they're not just the most talented, but they also can be the most tough team here on the field or in this conference overall. It just doesn't have to be a one-way where it's through the air or it's relying fully on your defense. It can also be the complementary style involving your run game and having that. And you compare that to what Indiana does. This team has just been a machine throughout the season. Efficient, explosive plays. The run game, 4th and 1, 3rd and 1. They can pick it up with ease and march the football down the field. Very tough to stop. And then in the middle of that defense, Aidan Fisher, getting him back from injury, that's really important. Look, he's up for the Buckeyes Award, one of the best linebackers in college football. Him and Arvell Reese are going to see a pivotal matchup between these guys. And Aidan Fisher, how does he do covering Bo Jackson underneath? Sayin has been going to him a lot throughout the season. Why? Teams that have taken the top off, taken those over the top away, from the Buckeyes at times, and that's opened up Max Klare and Bo Jackson underneath to get them the ball. Bo Jackson, 4 catches for 49 yards against Michigan. He played a role receiving the football underneath. So Aidan Fisher, he's critical. He's a guy that had a dominant game against Oregon. If they don't have Aidan Fisher, they don't have that type of game. He was all over the football field. This is one of the best defensive players in the Big Ten. You'd probably say he's maybe the best linebacker in the Big Ten, but then there's Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese in the middle there for Ohio State. These are just freaks of nature. I don't think that there's any shade here to say if we were to decide that, all right, Aidan Fisher's the third best linebacker, he's going to be an NFL draft pick and he's going to be highly coveted by ever who ends up selecting him against Oregon. What did he have? 12, 13 total tackles, 2 sacks, and he was just getting after Dante Moore at times. Rangy across the entire field. And then there's Elijah Hardy. And then there's the ability for Farrell and Pons and Moore, Isaiah Jones to tackle. This is a physical unit that Indiana has in that back seven. The ability to bring guys down. I'm quite impressed. And you go and look through this Indiana team and that secondary and their willingness to come up and hit you, to come up and tackle, to challenge you to fight for extra yardage. And that's something that's quite good. And then, of course, up front there, look, Mikhail Kamara hasn't the type of season that you wanted him to have statistically. Still one of the better defensive end, edge-type players in this conference. Mario Landino, he's been fantastic. This is a team Tyreek Tucker, another guy, just bringing up a bunch of names that Buckeye fans are not quite as familiar with. You're going to have to get familiar with this because this team gets heat on the quarterback. They have over, 35, 36 sacks on the season. Ohio State, they're more of a team that's going to be in that base defense of 4 down, and then it's incredible with how versatile Reese, Styles, and Downs moving them around and interchangeability in their positions, and then Lorenzo Styles even in the slot, and then deep playing in the middle of the field. It's incredible to see how many different positions that group, that middle 3 of those guys wind up playing. Whereas Indiana, they're walking up, and simulated pressure is very difficult, and trying to identify where that pressure will come. There's no doubt about it, in my opinion, this is going to be the toughest game for both of these defenses in this season. I originally thought that the Washington game was going to pose a larger challenge on the road for Ohio State. I was wrong in believing Damon Williams would have more success with his legs, that Denzel Boston would have a great game. Now, that's another Big Ten wide receiver that's been terrific throughout this entire season. And then Indiana, and I look at them in defending Oregon, I thought that was going to be their toughest game facing that offense, and they were phenomenal. I mean, Dante Moore, that was by far his worst game of the year. Oregon less than 3 yards a carry, only 81 yards on 30 carries overall on the day. It was shocking to watch that, as it was a game that's on the road at Outson, a place that Ohio State was right there. I still think that Will Howard got down with half a second or a second, should have got the 50-yard field goal, but that's a conversation we've already had 20 times. But a win at Outson, that just does not happen. We'll get ready and watch the first round of the college football playoff. Oregon, more likely than not, will get they're going to get a home game in that first round, and you're going to see how dominant they will be having that game in their building. And for them to go in there and beat that team by 10 points, heck, I don't know if there's a more impressive or a better win in college football this season than that one. Early on in the season, beating the preseason #1 Texas and doing in that, man, I know it was 14-7, and the narrative around that game was about how it was so tight at the end. Really, that game was not as close as the score. The Buckeyes up 14-0, a bit of prevent and keeping the ball in front of them, and the Texas Longhorns were able to strike, and they wound up having the football back. But that game felt like it was 2 scores, and if you've been paying attention, you go back and watch it, the game did not at all feel really as close as what the score entailed. So teams with quality wins, Indiana, this is a game now as we pivot to what their defense will look like against Ohio State's offense, and how they will try to take away those 2 wide receivers. You have to stay away from man in this game. It's in a dome. It's not quite those conditions out there in Ann Arbor. No, there's snow, and you can rely on a little bit of the Buckeyes being a bit more conservative in that game, relying on their defense feeling it out. They took the deep shot to Carnell Tate, first play of the game, and then a beautiful concept there, getting him the football, taking the shot over the top and right over the safety. Beautiful throw from Sayin in the snow, give the Buckeyes that 2-score lead and just about end the game. Middle of the third quarter. That's what the Ohio State wants. If there's an opportunity to take their shots over the top, they don't care. Why? It's not an ultra-aggressive play call for them to target Tate or Smith in one-on-ones. Something I've continued to repeat. It's at the very least going to be incomplete. Now, the interception Sayin threw, he singled into Jeremiah and just didn't, I don't know if he didn't see the defender or he didn't throw the football high enough. He just the ball released him. That's not a shot. That's not a 25, 30-yard ball, a go ball down the field, or just giving your wide receiver a chance because he's in single coverage. That was a much different play. Besides that one throughout the season, there's been a heck of a lot of beautiful balls from Julian down the field, getting him to his wide receiver. So if I'm Indiana, I'm saying, hey, I'm going to let this be the 23 tackle Aidan Fisher game where this man is going to do everything. It's flying to the football over the middle, making tackles on Bo Jackson or Max Klare or Jeremiah Smith catching a screen pass as the Buckeyes try and keep it all underneath. And Indiana forcing Ohio State to march the football the length of the field. Looking at two high safeties, well, that's usually the first place that you're going to be looking as a young quarterback or a quarterback at all levels of football. You're staring at too high, then you're probably going to run the football. If I'm Indiana, that's essentially my goal of this game, is to dare the Buckeyes to run the football and keep it on the ground. What does that do? It moves that clock, it shortens the game, and it increases the probabilities that you can be in a one-score game in the fourth quarter, because let's be honest, that is the goal of this. The ultimate goal is to beat Ohio State, I understand, but I know with ultimate confidence that in the back of just about every Indiana fan is, well, I thought we had a really good team last year, and then we played the Buckeyes tough for 25 minutes to that play on special teams. Then the return from Caleb Downs, I thought we gave him a good shot. Like, that game didn't feel like we got blown out by 25 or 30 points, whatever the final score was. I felt like that we had a better opportunity to play that game. One other crack. Here you go. Here's your rematch. Felt like that you got a bit of a unlucky draw in that one, and it just didn't go the way that you wanted. You had the good start. I think the opening possession, the length of the field for the touchdown, like Indiana with a great start in that game. In the back of Indiana fans' heads, though, is still, can we play this game tight? Like, are we actually of the caliber of the Buckeyes? And you look at the composites, or ESPN's FPI, or you look at the 5 stars, the 4 stars, and the breakdown of these rosters all together and how much more talent there is for the Buckeyes. And Indiana's got that chip on their shoulder, and they use that. The question in every Indiana fan's mind is, can we actually go out there and compete? Go toe-to-toe, trade blows with these guys, be up 23-20 in the fourth quarter. Is that possible? Or be up 16-13 in a complete Big Ten style, lower scoring, scrappy game? Because realistically, we're not seeing 30 points from Indiana in this game. I think that if I'm Indiana, I'd probably take 20 right now. No one scored more than 16. That was Illinois. And again, they were taking guys out in the second half in that one. So I don't know. What's that number? There's got to be a number in Curt Cignetti's head that he's feeling like we got to hit that number. Is it 24 points? Is it 19? I sort of believe it's probably around 26. I don't believe he's going to come in there with the exact confidence he's about to drop 30 points on this historical Buckeye defense. But I'll have you know that that's an important narrative to this one. Indiana hasn't done it. They haven't had that win against this Buckeye team, or in this type of a playoff game, for example, or a Big Ten title. They just haven't been on these stages. The win against Oregon, that told us all they arrived and they can compete in this conference. Now, can you go out there and win it? I think this is the by far best time to be alive if you're an Indiana Hoosier football fan. Who would have thought that this team 2 years ago with the hire of Curt Cignetti this quickly would be in the conversation to even be in this game? A 5.5-point underdog against the Ohio State Buckeyes in the Big Ten title game? That's it? A one-score game is the prediction from the pundits, from the analysts, from everybody. They're thinking it's going to be a one-score game with a great chance to win. I mean, what a time to be alive and to be rooting for them. So even imagine there was a time that the Indiana fans would have been happy losing by 14, 17 points to the Buckeyes and being in just a 2-score game in the fourth quarter. Now, I would probably ask their fans, and they would. There's a scenario where I ask them, would you be happy if you're down 17-14 fourth quarter? Like, no, I feel like we can beat this team. That's what this culture has been instilled from Curt Cignetti. It's really fun to watch. And whereas Ryan Day, where the expectation is to win every game, I'm so proud of what he's done after that Michigan game and what he had to deal with. And now he's won 16 games in a row, got a national title to always have with him, looking to get that second in a row, first time ever in Ohio State. And that would be the first time ever that they've done that. And he's got a greater chance. I think it's plus 160 right now for the national title odds. And Indiana right now is at about plus 425, 430 or so. So about 2.5 times as good as any other team in the country's odds to win the entire thing. You just gotta look back to where we were one season ago. They lost to Michigan, and it was like fire Ryan Day. That's it. I was not one of those people. I think he's been a great coach, and that was what was known. And it was Penn State, Oregon playing for the Big Ten title, and people did not want Ryan Day to be the coach. They were ready to fire him if you lost to Tennessee. Whereas Indiana with Curt Cignetti, they're playing with house money going into the college football playoffs. It's amazing how much can change a year from now. You got Buckeye fans saying, give this man a lifetime contract after the drought being over against Michigan. So this Buckeye offense, in order to have a shot, you take away the deep ball. And typically in a lot of games, it's like we got to stop the run first. Have to stop the run first. This specific matchup and what the firepower entails, I'm more of the opinion you limit the deep ball. Because against Texas, wasn't there the entire game against that Texas Longhorn Buckeyes semifinal game. Against Texas, right? As soon as they got the explosive play, bam to Tate, went from a 7-0 to 14-0 game, it was over. Ball game. Buckeyes up 14 with this defense, game's over. Against Michigan, felt like it was a tighter game. 8 points, and then bam, game's over with the explosive play, hit them deep. So that's a part of the game where if I'm Indiana, it's almost like you have to continue to do it. Even if they are marching the length of the field, that is the one part of this game that will allow Ohio State to blow you out, to have this game not be close in the fourth quarter. If they're marching down the field and it's 4.5, 5 yards a carry, and they're going 12 plays, so be it. That they're taking 7, 8, 9 minutes. You just have to hunker down and get stops in the red zone. That's what it comes down to. But I emphatically believe that in order to be in this game in the fourth quarter, it's limiting the explosives. It's taking away the deep shots, doubling Jeremiah Smith, 2 high safeties the entire day. If the Buckeyes want to run the football 14 plays in a row, and they can score doing that, all right. And that's how you go down, and maybe you get another crack at them, and there's a rematch coming in the college football playoff, and then you have something to go on and how to make an adjustment and play them in that second matchup. I mean, I'd probably call it a 50-50 chance that these two teams play again in the college football playoff with how good of a level they've played and how inconsistent a lot of the SEC teams have been in the matchups and who they're going to be facing. So there's a good chance that we do get to see this game again in a way that Oregon, Ohio State, those two teams met again. They met twice last year, famously in the Rose Bowl. So Indiana, that's stylistically how I'm coming out. I'm really putting the onus on the middle. This has to be the game of Aidan Fisher's life. Cannot miss tackles. The stuff underneath, that's where this game becomes pivotal. There can't be broken tackles. There can't be missed guys in the open field, missed assignments. A safety like Michigan had with no Rod Moore in the lineup of the veteran captain player not there. Carnell Tate over the top for that touchdown. So that can't happen for Indiana for them to have a shot in this game. Frankly, for Ohio State, in a manner for them where you would see them not being in this game in the second half, it's just quite difficult to imagine. First thing that comes to mind is they have not trailed for a single second in the second half of any game this year. The biggest deficit that they've been behind was the 6 points to Michigan. Previously, it had been 3 points, I believe 2 or 3 different times on the season, but the biggest deficit has been 6 points than what it was to Michigan in that first quarter. The fact of the matter is, I believe that it depends on the style of Indiana and coming out. Roman Hemby, if they want to slow this thing down, I'm all for it. I believe the pace of play is a game. Looking at Michigan and what they've done the last couple of years, taking that game plan, watching Texas in the 2 games and how they played the Buckeyes, they played them tight fourth quarter. I believe that you look at the entirety of the 4 wins from Michigan against Ohio State and on that streak, and the 2 games from Texas, and you compile that and you watch the games like I have, and you start to see a bit of a formula, and it is like in 2023, it was the doubling of Marvin Harrison Jr., limiting him and forcing the Buckeyes to keep the ball in the slot and saying, all right, Kenneth Grant, Mason Graham, Josiah Stewart, you want to run the ball on our defense? We're fine with that. And they had Will Johnson also on that defense to be able to limit Marvin Harrison Jr. So that is the type of style for Indiana. They know they've got Pons, but D'Angelo Pons can't stack up against Tater Smith in one-on-one. You're just talking about, what is that, a 5-6 inch difference in height, and athletically, it just won't shake up to be a good matchup for them, having him on one-on-one in this game. I've got no disrespect to D'Angelo Pons, but these are 6'3" wide receivers. These guys have that length and size. That's not at all something that you can allow to happen. So up front, Landino, Kamara, we need to see it. We have to see these guys have an impact in this one and early. So the slow style of play, if I'm Indiana, it's efficiency. Fernando Mendoza's legs like we've never seen. 12, 13 carries, putting the team on his back. Go getting first downs. Cooper and Sarratt, take your one-on-ones. Because I'll tell you what, getting in the red zone with the Buckeyes, I don't think that's quite a great strategy there. If you have your shots, balls 1st and 10, 2nd and 2 at the 38 of the Buckeyes, I'm going end zone twice just to try and get the score there instead of having to put the football condensed against Matt Patricia's defense. I'm really trying to take advantage of that field position, go end zone there instead of having to do it closer, but slower pace of play. That's that style, and making this game a heck of a lot shorter. So shifting over towards back again to this defense, taking a quick sip of water here. For Ohio State and their defense and the way that they match up, Styles and Reese. So in their responsibility to take away Mendoza's legs, I do feel quite confident they will be able to limit Mendoza in this game. You don't have to quite be at the style of like Bryce Underwood this past week, where Reese underneath have a responsibility to take away his legs, or against Washington, where it was Arvell Reese shadowing or spying at times for Damon Williams. Don't have to fully do that with Mendoza, but what is very effective from that Indiana offense is the up the middle. They spread you out, right? Four guys spread out, and then it's Mendoza up the middle. And that's something that really comes down to, will the Buckeyes have one linebacker in that box, or are you moving Reese or Styles out further in order to cover a tight end or a running back? Are you going to give Indiana that look in that formation where it can be a one-on-one Mendoza right up the middle? Because they love that. 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6. They have no fear of spreading it out, and it's Fernando Mendoza and a chance for him to be one-on-one with a linebacker and to try and get that first down, spreading it out. I think that comes up at a certain point. They love it in the red zone on a 2nd and goal at the 9, something like that, or a 3rd and 12, and they feel confident. They get the right look, and it can be Mendoza. I believe that there's a play at some point in this game that it comes down to an open field tackle between Mendoza and Reese, and I just feel confident these Buckeye linebackers can do it. You're talking about easily 2 first-round talents. Arvell Reese could be the first player taken in this draft. Mendoza 1, Reese 2, Caleb Downs, top 5, top 10 pick, no doubt about that. And what he can do, again, remember, this guy's in the conversation for the Nagurski, for the Bednarik Award, the best defender in the country, the Thorpe, the best defensive back, and what he can do in this junior player. This is one of those games where there's just NFL talent littered all over the field. I feel ultra confident in the way that Ohio State stacks up, maybe even a little bit more so in their offense against Indiana's defense than even I felt about Ohio State's offense this year against Penn State's defense. I know that might sound a little bit wild, but Penn State has played decently enough on defense against the Buckeyes the last couple of seasons, and sure enough, they were able to, for a while, stay in that game and limit Ohio State. Before, what? The deep plays over the top. They couldn't keep the top on. You've got Jeremiah Smith over the top. You got Carnell Tate twice, 2 big plays over the top in that game. So that's something that we've been familiar with. For Indiana, how are you going to go about your third down and 3s, your third down and 4s? Are you going to try and set up 4th down and short? Is it a run play? Or do you believe that you can drop Mendoza back and confidently think that he can read that Ohio State defense with Matt Patricia disguising coverage post-snap? It's going to look different than it was pre-snap. And you've got Arvell Reese coming, and Sonny Styles dropping, or you've got both of them coming, and it's Kenyatta Jackson or Caden Curry dropping into. Like, there's so many different variations of what this defense looks like and how difficult it will be for Mendoza, where I do believe that there is a true realm of possibility that this game just really isn't all that close. That Indiana hasn't played a team with this array of weapons on a full defense, top to bottom. Now, remember the way Oregon played against USC. USC, Mekhi Lemon, Jacoby Lane, they went off in that game. Killed Oregon in their secondary, right? Elijah Sarratt, he went off, right? 8 catches, 120 yards and a touchdown. Omar Cooper, 7 catches. They had a great day through the air. Those guys combined for 180 yards. Against this Buckeye defense, this is a secondary that is better. A secondary that's more veteran, that's more experienced. The Oregon defensive line, Uyunglele, Tatum Tuioti, Bear Alexander, Amari Washington, that front 4, that's as good as it gets at college football. And the Buckeyes are comparable fully with that, maybe just as good, if not better. There's no doubt about it. They're better at linebacker than Bocher. These are 2 first-round talents. But the secondary with Caleb Downs. No one else in college football has a Caleb Downs. There hasn't been a guy like this probably since Kyle Hamilton. You'd probably have to go back a couple of years to find that type of impact player as a defensive back and what he's able to do from a versatile standpoint-wise. And then the physicality of Igbinosun, I believe that it has to be on the ground for Indiana, and their one-on-ones, winning them. That's what it comes down to. I have a confidence in the sense that Ohio State can win those one-on-ones, that they will have enough success stopping that ground game. Caden McDonald, that's another first-round level player. Joel Klatt talks about it. He absolutely is. But Edric Houston, another guy that doesn't get enough credit. And number 95, Tywone Malone, he doesn't get enough credit on the interior. The talk about Kenyatta Jackson and Caden Curry and these guys get a lot of attention, but no. That interior, Ty Hamilton and Tyleik Williams, those guys were great. I think that McDonald and Houston are just as good, if not better. It's incredible to say that to first-year starters right there in the middle of this season. I truly believe that they are just as good. And we're talking about Williams, first-rounder to Detroit. Ty Hamilton, 4th, 5th-rounder going to Los Angeles Rams. That's the matchup that Indiana's facing. And then you just can't compare any other receiving core that Indiana has faced this season that is remotely comparable to this Ohio State core. I'm not going to hear the conversations. I will. I'll listen to them. People want to talk about, Gary Bryant and DeCorian Moore, Malik Benson. That's not comparable to the Buckeyes, at least not right now, with DeCorian Moore being a true freshman. Some true freshmen are different. Corey Moore's different. J.J. Smith, that kid was different last year. What he's doing again this season should be the Biletnikoff Award winner. Probably is deserving to be in New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony, but in just the way that Ohio State felt this season, the best chances to win the game, Big Ten and Natty, slower play and not having to run as many plays and almost get a full another game and another 2 games of rest, slowing it down and not having to run as many plays because we're just going to slow it down, be efficient, and score. Not have to have 2 guys with over 1,000 yards. And credit to Indiana, they've been explosive and they've played Fernando Mendoza in a conversation where if he outplays Julian Sayin in this game and Indiana wins, the Heisman Trophy is his. I believe that Julian Sayin will outplay Mendoza, that Cignetti and the identity of Indiana, they feel that they will be able to match up with the Buckeyes. At some point, that deep play will come. Throughout the year, it's been there. It has been there. Teams lose a little bit of patience. The run game gets traction in the middle of that third quarter. That third quarter, late second quarter, it started to get traction, starting to run the football. Third quarter, it's happening. They get aggressive, and it's over the top, one-on-one. It's just an inevitable play, and it will come, and that's my belief here. I think this is an Ohio State win, 30-20. Now, I know a team has not scored that amount of points on the Buckeyes this season. I believe Indiana can. If I'm wrong and not Indiana can put up 20 points, then for the college football playoff. If Indiana can't score 20 points and this Ohio State defense is able to limit them to 13 or to 16 or something like that, able to win this game. My prediction is Ohio State wins this game 30-20 because of their talent on the outside and the nature of their defense and how athletic they are. I truly believe that they can stop Indiana and put the Hoosiers into third down and long, and therefore, in possessions in the second half, be forcing Indiana to throw on first down, which is not where they want to be. Indiana wants to throw the football on 2nd down and 3, not 2nd down and 9, and obvious passing downs. And with this base, I have confidence Igbenogson, without the penalties, he can step up. And Matthews, he can step up. And they can get pressure on Mendoza. It gets started to come there in the second half against Michigan and Bryce Underwood, and they win this game by a score of 30-20. I hope that everybody has a great time with this game, whether you're a Buckeye fan, an Indiana fan. Appreciate this one. Can we just be grateful? Like, there's a day and age where the loser of this game, their season's over. It comes down to this one and who can go to the national championship. Both these two teams will be in the college football playoff and probably wind up with first-round byes. We get to watch a classic. This will be an instant classic type game. We're going to learn so much about both of these teams after this one. Is Indiana really here? Is it their time? Does it look like they can be that team to go do this? Or are the Buckeyes just too good and they without a doubt are going to be 3 games away from another national championship? And there might not be a team out there that has an ability to even play with them for 4 quarters with what they're capable of. If Julian Sayin really is the best quarterback in college football, and he has the opportunity to go out there and prove that in this game with the Heisman Trophy on the line. So let me know down below in the comments who you think wins this game. Am I right? You think the Buckeyes win this by 2 scores? Or do you believe Indiana can make this game quite close? I appreciate you so much for watching this video with Blitz with Blender. And I will see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching. Best player in college football. That Georgia and Ohio State game, New Year's Eve, is going to be a classic.
Josh Blender, hi everybody, I'm Josh Blender. To the 40, 35, 30, Espinoza to the 20,